All right, good evening, everyone. Please let me know if you can hear me. Good evening. Just on the group, on the chat, just you can just type it. All right. I can see your response. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's class, and our topic for today is mastering how to master DAX for reporting in Power BI. So moving on to our ground rules, we have punctuality. Please let's always be punctual, and the attendance for today is not really encouraging though, but please let's always keep it in mind and be punctual. So let's have an open mind. There should always be one class. Then let's always participate and respect each other. Ask questions as many as you can. If you cannot ask it on the group here, once the class finishes, you can always reach out to any of the moderator and ask them or ask it on the group. And raise up your hand if you have any question that you want to ask. So moving on, so like I've said earlier, my name is Temitope Fatima, and I'm a business intelligence analyst at Nametrics. So with over 2 years experience, and I'm also a Microsoft certified Power BI analyst. Um, our um our speaker for today is Sadiq Yusuf, who currently works at DB Brown Consulting with over 4 years experience as a business intelligence analyst. He's also a 4 times Microsoft certified trainer. He's a Microsoft certified data analyst. He has trained over 5,000 participants, including senior management on Power Platform, Big Data, Microsoft Office tools, and advanced presentation skills for business. He has also built a robust analytics systems solutions for clients across various industries, ranging from aviation, telecommunication, financial institutions, and so on. So, guys, please let's welcome our speaker for today. Please, he needs a round of applause. Let's welcome him. Um, welcome, Yusuf, and I'll be please um kindly share your screen now, Mr. Yusuf.
All right. Please confirm that you can hear me and you can see me. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. How are we doing today?
I can't see it.
Oh, really? All right. Please type in the chat if you can hear and you can see me.
Okay, I can now. I can see your screen now and I can hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Fatima, for having me. And good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, depending on where you are joining from across the world. So, just like you said, my name is Sadiq Yusuf, and today we're going to be looking at mastering data, maximum DAX for reporting in Power BI. So, how we can leverage on DAX for reporting in Power BI. All right, so thank you very much, everybody. So, without wasting much of our time and without further ado, so we're going to be jumping into the business of the day. And so today we're going to be looking at DAX in totality. We'll talk about the introduction to DAX. Let's get to know what DAX means and what the importance of DAX is. And also we need to understand this DAX syntax. How do we write DAX when it comes to Power BI? And what are the uses of DAX in Power BI? And also the practical applications of DAX. And those are the things we cover within this 1 hour time frame. And before I wrap up for the day, then you will have the opportunity of asking questions. So I'll be giving opportunity for us to ask questions and me answering our questions in between. So once again, you are welcome to the class. And I hope this is going to be an interactive class. All right, so Like she said, my name is Sadiq Yusuf. I currently lead the training and the consulting team at D Brown Consulting. So when we talk about DAX, so there's another thing that I said about DAX is from DAX. So when you master DAX, it helps you to unlock the full potential of Power BI, and it is a key to transforming raw data into powerful insight. It also enables you to craft a dynamic, interactive report that drive better business decision. And with that, you don't just analyze data. You also what? You make it speaks volume. All right. So now that we are talking about DAX, so let's talk about the introduction to DAX. And please, for everyone, we are going to be using the file that I used in yesterday's session. So the same file that I used yesterday is what we are going to continue working on. So with DAX, DAX is actually an acronym for something. So for everyone, let's type in the chat. What do you think is the full meaning of DAX? Let's type in the chat, everyone. Let's type it in chat. All right, Miriam. Thank you, Miriam. Oluwaseun. Interesting. Right. All right, so interesting. Well done, well done, well done, everyone. So when we talk about DAX, DAX simply means, just like you've all put in the chat, DAX simply means data analysis expression. So it means data analysis expression. And when we say DAX, so DAX is the formula language of Power Pivots in Excel, because with DAX, we have DAX in Excel, we have it in Power BI, we have it in SQL and all other services as well. So it is a formula language of Power Pivot in Excel. And with DAX, it allows us, yes, okay, I think people are still typing in the chat. All right, so with DAX, DAX allows us to create custom calculation. So when you're working with Power BI, as we have all seen and as we know, Power BI makes it very easy for us to create an interesting and an interactive report. With just a single click in Power BI, your report is ready. But with DAX, you can leverage your DAX to create a custom aggregation or custom calculation. So there's some calculation that normally they're very difficult for us to do. So but with DAX language, we can easily tweak our numbers and make it speaks to what we want. And with DAX, it helps us to, like I said, it helps us to create a complex calculation. You can write some dynamic calculation, and with that, you can also make use of DAX to manipulate your data, and it helps you to improve or enhance your data model. So I really don't want to bore us with stories this afternoon. I actually would like us to go into the business of the day. Let's get our hands dirty. So everyone, let's have the file that we used yesterday open. And once you have it opened, please type opened in the chat. Type opened in the chat. All right, let's type it in chat. Where's mine as well? Let me look for mine. Okay, this is mine as well. Okay. Type open in the chat. All right, so well done. I think I have enough opened in the chat already. All right, so well done, everyone. Now, when we talk about DAX, right? Like I said, it is a formula language of Power BI. But then how do we write DAX measures or DAX functions in Power BI? So there are a lot of functions that we can use, just like in Excel. Can someone just start and type in the chat? What are the Excel functions that you know? Type in the chat. What are the Excel functions that you know? Type in the chat the different functions that you use in Excel that you know how to use very well in Excel. Interesting. Okay. XLOOKUP, average, sum count, sum if. Yes. index, max, trim. Fantastic, fantastic. And so far, we've started with what? We started with the knowledge of Excel, and we've been into some different Excel functions. Yes, same thing with DAX. With DAX, you are also going to make use of all the functions that we actually have in DAX in Excel. We have them in DAX as well. And again, another interesting aspect of it is that we will have more functions, there are a lot of functions that we now have in DAX but are not in Excel. So I'll just be taking us through brief so a few of the functions that we have in DAX. Then what we can now fully dwell into how we can leverage on it to write some, to tweak our numbers and to speak volume into our numbers. So different functions or different groups of functions that we have in DAX are what we have: the aggregate functions, just like all of us have typed. I remember I said it earlier on that with DAX, it enables you to what? To aggregate your numbers. So there are some functions that are under the aggregate. So we call them the aggregate functions. We use them to aggregate our numbers. So such functions are the sum function, the count function, the minimum, the maximum, count rows. In Excel, we don't even have count rows. We have count functions in Excel. So we have the average, you have the sum x, the count blanks, and so on. So those are the aggregate functions. All these functions that are meant for what? To aggregate our numbers in Power BI. Also, we also have the date and the time functions in DAX. What are the date and time functions? We have the calendar functions that we can use in creating our calendar table. We have the calendar auto, same thing. We have the date difference, the day function, the month function, the quarter, year, or the net work days. If I have more of this, just that what? These are the few that I can make mention of this evening. Also, going forward, we have the filter functions. So the filter functions helps us to filter our report. And such functions are the filter function itself, the function that is called filter. The all functions in Excel, we have filter function as well. We have what? All functions in DAX. We have the calculate, very interesting function in Power BI. All selected, we have the rank, the remove filter, and many more of them. So the next one is the logical function. This same way we have it in Excel. We have the if function, the switch function, the or, the and, the true, the not true, the coalesce, and so on. So these are what? The logical functions that we have in Power BI. And we also have the time intelligence functions. These functions helps you to what? To deal with timing when it comes to your data. We can calculate, we can write the function that helps to calculate data for the previous day, the same period last year, date add. We have the date YTD, which means date year to date. We have the start of the year, the closing balance, the end of month, and many more of such functions. All those functions are referred to as the time intelligence function. Then we move on to the next function, which you are. So I'm very sure some of us have come across some of these functions in Excel, like people type in the chat. And we have the left function, the text function. Text function are left function, the right, the mid, the replace function, the concatenate, search, trim, the len function, upper, lower, and so on. So all these functions, there are a lot of similarity between DAX and the Power BI functions that we have. And also, just like I said, all the functions that have in Power Excel, you have them in DAX, but you will have more of it when it comes to DAX. So that's actually what makes it very interesting. So we also have some functions that we can use, that what the returns table. These functions, when you write them at the end of the day, what they return is what? They return an output of a table. So we have the table functions, which are the add columns, the top end, the distinct function, the filter, the generate series, group by, summarize, we have the union, and also we have the value functions. These are different groups of functions that we have in Excel, and please just know that what we have many more of these. If you read Microsoft documentation, you can see we have a lot of groups, but what these are just a few ones I would just like to show us this afternoon. Now we've talked about DAX functions, right? So now the question is, how do we even write for DAX functions in Power BI? When it comes to Power BI, how do you start writing it in Power BI? The syntax of DAX function, just like every other tools have their own syntax. How do we write it in Power BI? So DAX syntax. And like you know, in Excel, when you want to write any function in Excel, where do you start from? Can someone type in the chat? When we are writing any function in Excel, where do you start from? Type in the chat. How do you start writing? Then thank you. Use the equal sign. Yes, fantastic. So in Excel, all you just need to do is what? Equal sign, then go ahead with either your function or the calculation that you want to do in Excel. Thank you very much, everybody. But in Power BI, in DAX, the case is a bit different. Yes. So in exactly. So in when it comes to Power BI, so first thing you're going to write is what you can see. For example, let's say you want to write a function or a calculation that will calculate what revenue. So by at first you have what you must give a name to whatever calculation that you want to do in DAX, be it a table, or you want to write a if you want to write a calculation that returns a column, or to write a measures or so, there must be a name for it. So you always start with the name of what you want to do. So what is the name of that calculation that you want to do? Any name of your choice, depending on the kind of calculation you want to do. For example, you want to calculate profits, right? So you give a name to it, so profit, or you want to calculate what? You want to write a measure that returns a table, you give a name to such table. That's the first thing that you need to do. Then you can now what? Go ahead with the equal sign. That is when your equal sign will then come in. So unlike Excel where you start with equal sign, in DAX or in Power BI, you must start with the name of that calculation itself. That's the first thing. Then your what? Your equal sign can follow suit. Then after the equal sign, you can then call on the function that you want to use in performing such calculation. You can then what? Call on the function that you want to use in performing what? Such calculation. So yeah, just like we said, we have introduced us to different functions that we have in Excel. So now that is when you can now call on the function. The sum, the count, the count row, the filter, the calendar, the if function, the switch. So they all come after you must have what? Given a name to your DAX measure and equal sign. Then you can now what? Call on the function that will help you to perform the calculation. So after bringing up the DAX function that you want to use, then you need to reference the table itself, which table is the column that I want to use coming from. So you must reference which table are you working on. So because in Power BI you can connect to as many tables as possible. You can be working on different tables. You can be working on as many tables as possible at the same time, right? And just like we did yesterday, we looked at how we can bring in as many tables into our Power BI, and how we can create connection between our tables, which is creating connection between your facts table and your dimension tables, right? So which was the data modeling that we did yesterday. So in this case, because you have a lot of tables that you're working with, you must also specify the table where your calculation is coming from. Then after specifying the table, then you can now reference the name of the column on that table that you want to be working with. So for different tables now, we have columns, we have different columns there. So which is when you make reference to the table, then you can now go to the specific column that you want to be working with on that table. So you reference the column name. After that, you can now you can then close your bracket, just like open and close the bracket. You go ahead with your calculation. So this is DAX syntax. This is how you are going to be writing whatever you are going to be writing in Power BI DAX. Now, what are the uses of DAX? What are those things that we use DAX to write when it comes to Power BI? So let's talk about the use of DAX. Like I said, we use DAX to calculate, do a lot of things, to give context to your report, to make you can use to suit your narrative. Whatever calculation you want to do, you can use to tweak the numbers and many more things I can do. So all these are calculated, they are divided into different categories of things that you can do. So which means with DAX in Power BI, we can use DAX to first of all, you can use it to create a calculated table. So with Power BI, you can use DAX to create a new table. So unlike the table you have a table already, you have a table that you brought into a Power BI. But with DAX, you can use a DAX functions to create another table completely different from what you brought in. You might have a big table, you can use to create a subset of a table, or you even create a completely different tables using DAX functions. That's one way of using DAX in Power BI. And secondly is you can even use it to to create a calculated column in Power BI. So Power BI, when you have a table that contains what? That contains several columns. But then there's still what? Another column that you need in your table before you can do your analysis. So you can make use of DAX, but this column does not even exist in your table. So you can leverage on DAX to create a new column when you get to Power BI. So again, that's the second thing that you can do with DAX, and we're going to look at all this. And thirdly, with DAX, you can now create a measure. With DAX, you can create a measure. What do we call measure? Like I said, with table, you create a table that all of us can see in Power BI, right? With column, you can add another column to your already existing table. You can see that again in Power BI. Well, measures are just calculation that you write in Power BI, but then these measures cannot be seen on any tables. But they can only what? They are stored in the Power BI memory, and you only see measure only when you call them into what? When you use them in any visual. When you are doing your reporting and you can only see measure. Measure are stored in the memory of Power BI. They don't occur physically in Power BI tables. So they are saved in Power BI memory. But you can only see the output of a measure when you call it in a what? In a visual. You're going to see they do that. And lastly, what we can do with DAX in Power BI is what? We can use DAX to write what we call what? To implement what we call the role level security. To implement the role level security. So all these are, so role level security simply means you can use it to what? To restrict what people see in your reports. You can use to restrict what people see at every point in time in your report. For instance, you have a report that you've created for your organization, and your organization has what? You have multiple, you have different branches or different branches or outlets across the country. Now, as a super analyst in the organization, you've created a report or list for that looks at all the branches at once. However, you want a situation whereby when you deploy your solution, you want a situation whereby when it gets to different branches, you should only be able to see the report that pertains to their branch. We send to different branch manager. Such manager should only be able to see the report that belongs to his or her branch. So every other branches, they will not be able to see it. So that can be done by implementing the role level security in Power BI and using DAX to implement that. So these are we are going to look at the different different scenarios where you can use DAX to implement all these things that we just made mention of. So that will now take us to the real work of the day, which is now the demo. So everyone, let's go to our Power BI. Let's get to Power BI now. All right. Who can tell me what is the first thing that I say we can use DAX for? What is the first thing that I say we can use DAX for? So I need to be sure that we are all on the same page. Type in the chat. We can use DAX to do a lot of things. What's the first thing that I made mention of? Interesting calculated table. We can use DAX to create a table. Interesting. Now, looking at the data that we currently have that we've been working on since yesterday. So here we have different tables. Here we have the table with dimension. We have the different dimensions table and the facts table, right? We have the customer dimension, the employee dimension, the products dimension, the supplier, and also the facts table that talks about the transaction of the business. Thank you very much, everyone. I can see what you're putting in the chat. Well done, everyone. Okay, now, for instance, so looking at this data now, there's even a table. So let's say we want to create a new table that's different from what we have here. Number one is when you look at the data that we have, I think when you looking at the order dates, right? Don't let me use it. We have products, we have what again? We have suppliers and the likes. So what if we are looking at creating a table that what that will only create a table, only create a table for transactions for our different suppliers alone, maybe supplier one, the transactions that has been carried out by the first supplier. Or even looking at this, when I look at our model, I can see that we have connected all the different tables together. But looking at the dimension, there's a dimension table that is even missing from here, which is what our calendar table, in case you want to do a time intelligence what calculation. You want to do a time intelligence calculation. So let's what see how we can use DAX to create a what a calendar table, right? Or we can use that to create a subset. Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, you can use DAX to what to create a subset of our tables. Now, because of our time, so let's use DAX to create a table for our calendar, right? So for you to write a DAX measure in Power BI, for you to write the DAX measure, currently I'm on the reports view. So on the reports view, actually you can see this on any view of your choice, but then let's say on the reports view. On the report view, everyone, let's go to the modeling tab. We go to the modeling tab. We have the file tab, the home, the insert, modeling view, optimize, help, and external tools. So under the modeling tab, so there are some commands that are very, very important. So these four commands, the four commands under the calculation group, where we have the measure, the quick measure, the new column and new table, they are very important for you to create your DAX measure. So right now, if I want to create a calculated table that like we all said, so I'm going to use what? I'm going to make use of the new table command. So everyone, let's create a table. Let's create a table. In fact, we'll create two tables. First of all, look at a subset of all our tables, and also we'll now create a calendar table. So for me, I want to create a table. Okay, let me escape. Looking at the data that we have in here, right? If I go to the facts table, and I can see what? I can see different columns in here, right? But I want to make use of our suppliers. Right now, we have different suppliers from supplier 1 down to 29, right? I'm only interested in the transaction made by, let's say, supplier 10. Supplier 10. So I want to create a table for what? The transaction for supplier 10 alone. So I'll go to the modeling tab, like I said earlier on. Under the modeling tab, then I click on new table. New table. Like I say, using DAX syntax, what is the first thing that I'm going to enter here? Type in the chat, what is the first thing that I need to specify here? What's the first thing that needs to be specified? We talked about DAX syntax. Thank you, the table name, thank you. So let's call this supplier 10. I want to call this table for just what? Supplier 10. Then use your equal sign, right? Equal sign. And when we are talking about the different functions that we have in Excel, right? In Power, in DAX, we talk about the table functions. Another table function, we have the function that says what? A filter function. Filter. We can say, I want you to filter the transaction table. So only transactions that was what? That was carried out by supplier 10. Supplier with the ID 10. Right? So I'm using the filter function. Right? So the filter function needs just what? Two arguments. The first one is the table. Which table am I working on? You can tell us which table am I working on? I'm working on what? The fact table. So I'm going to say what? Fact table. Can you see? I'm saying go to the fact table. Go to the fact table and filter it down to what? Where the what? Supplier ID. There's a column for supplier ID. You can see where the supplier ID. The tab on needs to pick it. Again, I'm using my filter what? Filter command, the filter function. So say filter the fact table to where what? Where the supplier ID then is what? Is equals to 10. if I want to see just for what? The supplier 10, or the transaction for supplier 10 alone. And I can then what? Close the bracket. I can then close the bracket. Again, what did I say? I said create a what? A table, and call the table, give the name to the table, give a what? A supplier 10 to the table. That should be the name of the table. And what? I want to create this table, I want to make it is a subset of another table. So using the filter function, I'm saying go into the fact table and filter the fact table down to just what? Supplier 10, where the supplier ID equals to 10. Then I hit enter. This will then create a new table for me. You can see now. It will then create a new table for me, and it calls the table supplier 10. The difference here is that what? Remember we say what? This is called what? A calculated table. So that is why it's for all other tables, you have the table icon. But for the calculated table, you are seeing what? A calculator icon in there. It's showing that what this table is a calculated table. Now let's go and see what we have on this supplier 10 table, everyone. So I'll go to my table view, scroll to the left hand side of my screen, and on the left hand side of my screen, I just click on table view. Then I go to which table? The supplier 10 now. So let me zoom out so we see. Now, so all the columns we have on what? On the facts table is still the same column that we have on this particular what? Supplier 10 table. Just that what this table has now been filtered down to supplier 10 with what is the supplier ID of 10. Can you see now? This is my supplier ID. So we have used to what? To create a calculated table. Also, like I said, that's one table that we've created. Let's not, this table is not a subset of our fact table, right? Let's now create another table. So same thing from my table view here. I don't even need to go back to my my report view before I can create a table. On my table view, if you come to the top here, you can see what? We have the same calculation group as well. The calculation group, and they are here. They are the what? The new measure, the new column, the new what? Quick measure, and also new table. Again, this time around, I want to create a what? A time table, a calendar. I want to create a table for my calendar. So I'll click on new table, everyone. New table. I'm creating a new table now. Again, what is the name of my table? I'm going to call it the calendar table, right? Now, how do I create a calendar table? So there are two functions that we can use in the calendar. You can call it calendar. There are two functions that we can use in Power BI to create a date table for us. And that function is what we call what? The calendar, or the calendar auto. The calendar, we have the calendar table, the calendar function, and also the calendar auto functions. So these two functions will help us to what? To create a date table. So the difference is that for calendar function, with calendar function, you have to be the one to specify your start date and the end date. When do you want your date to start? Calendar now, it should start from when and it should end in when. That's the calendar. Why the calendar auto? It is an automatic calendar, just like the name implies. It's an automatic calendar that is created you looking at the dates that we have in the table that we already have in our Power BI. So the auto calendar will automatically create a calendar table for me. But these dates now, the start and the end date, will depend on the date column that we have in any table that we have brought into our Power BI. So to create this, let's use what? The calendar auto. And looking at the calendar auto, I think, let me just first of all use the calendar function so you see how we can create a calendar function. From the calendar function now, you can see we need a start date and an end date. What is your start date? You need to manually specify it. So let me say if my start date is, let me say 2010 to 2024, or so 2020. I'm going to say my start date is, open a quote, 1st of January 11 year 2010. Okay, let me use 2020 then. 2020, that's close the quote, that is my start date. The 1st of January 2020, start date, then comma. The end date, I have to be to want to also say what? I want my calendar to terminate at this particular date. can say what? Open a quote, then let's say is what? December, that's 12, slash 31, slash 2025. Then close the quotes. I can then close my bracket. So this now, when I hit enter, it is going to create a new table for me. And this table will start from 2020, 1st of January 2020, and it is going to end by what? By 31st of December 2025. It's continue scrolling down now. You notice that what the end date is 2025. Can you see now? This is my end date. So that was what the calendar function will do. But the calendar auto, okay, let me create a new table. I'm going to create a new calendar. So just the calendar auto, because of time, let me just call it auto calendar, auto cal. Again, how do you create a data from here? You can use what? Again, use the what? Calendar auto. Use the calendar auto function. And the calendar auto function does not need any argument. You can see in the box we have is fiscal year end month is the only argument in this. But then when you look at it very well, is what is a curly, the argument is in a curly bracket, which means what? It is optional. It is optional. So I can sign up to supply it. I'll close the bracket and what? Hit enter. This will also what? Create a calendar, a calendar table for me. So this is how we can use what? So if you check all our tables now, we have created a lot of calculated tables. We created auto calendar, the calendar, and also the supplier 10. So this is how we use calendar function to create a DAX. We use DAX to create a table in Power BI. That's a calculated table. Now, the second thing that we can do with DAX is what? With DAX, you can create what we call the calculated column. We can create a calculated column. We can create a new column that does not even exist in your table. Now, everyone, let me show you something. If you go to the transaction table, which is the facts table, on the facts table, we have a lot of columns there. And part of the columns that we have are what? Unit price. We have a column that speaks about unit price and the quantity of product that was purchased. However, in this table, there is no column that is telling us the sales amount, the revenue generated from each transaction. So can somebody tell me, if I want to create a column, if I want to create a column that calculate, if I want to calculate the sales, the amount of sales that we've generated for each transaction, the revenue generated for each transaction, tell me, how am I going to calculate it? How am I going to calculate it? Type in the chat, how am I going to calculate the sales generated? Looking at this now, we don't even know this is a transaction, right? And this is the price of the product that was purchased. This is the ID of the product. This is the price of the product, and this is the quantity of product that was purchased. How much is this person going to pay on this transaction? Thank you. Unit price multiplied by quantity. Fantastic. So we can create a column for what? Sorry. Can create a column for sales on what? On this table. How do you do that? We can do that by what? By clicking on new column. New column, a calculated column. New column. I will just click on new column. New column. New column. You can see it creates a new column for me. And it is what? On my formula bar, DAX is asking me what? The column. In table, it was what? Table. In column now, it's saying what? Column. So what is the name of the column? What name should we call this column? Let's call it the gross sales. Let's call it the gross sales. Then we say gross sales equals to what? What did he say? He say unit price. Then I'll say unit price. Now you can see now that when I type unit, it's telling me what the table where I can find what unit. So unit price from the transaction, from the facts table, right? So I'll just what? Tab on this unit price, then multiply by quantity. Then you can see also quantity coming from the facts table. The reason why we need to reference the table is because you can have different tables having what? The same column name. You can have quantity column on another table as well. So that's why you need to reference the table you're actually working with. So here now I'm saying what? From the fact table, pick the unit price and multiply by the quantity sold. Then I hit enter. This now is going to create a new column that does not exist before in this data for me. Now I have what? A column that is saying what? That terminates the gross sales. So that is 348, 34.8 multiplied by what? By the quantity. Where is the quantity column? Okay, 34.8 multiplied by 5 will give you what? This 174. Right? This is the gross sales. Again, we can still create another column because on this table now, we have the column that's talking about discounts. So discount. So if we apply, we are giving discount. So for some people, there is 0% discount. Some are getting what? You can see 5%, 10%, 15%, and so on. So how much is this person? The gross sale is saying this is the amount that you are actually meant to pay. But with discounts now, when you are giving you discount, how much are you supposed to pay? So we can create a column for that. I say what? New column. Then this column now we can then call it the net sales. Net sales, right? And net sales is saying what? For net sales, we are saying the gross sales column, right? Multiply by the discount, right? The discount. So we are going to open a bracket and say 1 minus the what? The discounts given. What is the discount column? Yes. So yes, so because this discount is in percentage actually, because if I say the gross is 7, what is this? 174 multiplied by discount here. Where is the discount? Discount is 0. That will give me 0. But the right way to calculate it is to say what? 1 minus this discount, because this discount is not in what? It's not in number, it's actually percentage. So that will not tell me the amount when I remove discounts from what you are meant to pay. What is now the what? Exactly. The net sales is now what? 17. So this is now the net sales. That is 174 minus discount is 0. You are still paying 174. And for others too, we see how much you are paying based on what we just did. Now, this is how what we use DAX to create a calculated column. You can see now we used to add a new column to this. Also, same thing for our calendar as well. We can use DAX. We can use DAX as well to create a new column on our calendar table. If I go to my calendar table, okay, let me use the auto calendar. So on my calendar table now, you will see that what we've created new columns, right? And if I let me change the data type of this column. This column now is on date time. So for this now, so I want to create what? First thing is I need to change. Okay, I want to change the data type to ordinary date, not date time. So I'll change it to dates. So from this date column now, I want to be able to extract different things from my date. I want to extract the year, the month, the quarter, and so on. So by creating a new column. So to do that, I'll get on new column. Then you need to give a name to your column. Okay, I'm going to answer the question. So let's create a column for year, everyone. That from the date column that we have here, we just want to extract only the year, right? So I'll give you 96 and so on. So the year now is what? We use a function in Excel to extract that. And that function is what called the format function. The formats. So format function is saying you value. What is the value? Where are you extracting from? I want to extract from the date column. Date column coming from the calendar date, the auto calendar date. That is, look into the value that we have on the date column, then comma, and in what format do I want to extract my year, right? So if you are not so good with Excel, remember you can format it to, you open a quote. So year format is what? Is Y. We use Y to extract year. So I'll say year, Y in 4 places, 2, 3, 4. Y in 4 places, and I close the quotes and I close the brackets, then you hit enter. That will help me to what? To extract only the year that we have in the data. To help me to what? To calculate only the year that we have in the data. I extract only the year. Right? So same thing, if you want to extract month, you do this, then you need to, everyone will there afterwards, use the same method to now what? Complete this date column. Again, new column, let me extract month for you. Let's extract months. So we call it month, let me call it month name, because you're going to do that. Again, to extract the month, we are going to use the format function. The format. And on the month, we say what? Again, go to the date column from the auto calendar table, right? Comma. Then who can tell us what will be the what? What will be the code for months? What will be the code for months? For year, we use Y. What we come in? So that's there. You have to what? M. Thank you. M exactly. So I open a quote for months. So M for months. So if I use a single M and close the brackets, it will give me what? The month in form of number. So 1 is representing January, 2 will represent February, 3 will represent March, 12 for December, right? But if I want the name of the month, if I make the M again, make it 2 M's and hit enter, what do you have? Then you have what? Still the number down is what? In 2 numbers, 2 figures, right? What I want is the name of the month itself. Let me make it 3, M in 3 places, enter. Now it gives me the what? The month in abbreviation. It abbreviates the month for me. It abbreviates the month for me. Can you see now? But if I want the month in full, then you make your M what? You make it 4 M's. 4 M's. So everyone, you can now complete this table. You create a new column for quarter. You create for month number, the quarter, the what again? Different columns. So yes, you can do that to call the week. Yes, we have the week number, the day itself, the day 1 to 31st of the month, and also day of the week, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So you can try that out. So because of time. So that is the second thing that measure that our DAX can do. Now on to the third thing that our DAX can do, which is what? Let's type in the chat. What is the third thing that we can do with our DAX? Week. All right. I'm seeing. Yes, just try it out. Try it out. Try it out. Yes. Yes. Quarter will be in Q. Yes. Your week, your day. Who can tell us what would day be? Day will be in what? What would they be? I actually don't want to tell us anything. Try it out, then you reach out to me on the group if you're having any challenge. Okay, interesting, interesting. So people know it already. So let's try it out. I can see the. Okay, now, so the third thing that DAX can do, what's the third thing that our DAX can do? Measure. So thank you. Somebody has typed in the type. Can do what? Measure. Like I said, we use measure. It's also what we can use that to create a measure. And measure, when you create a measure, measure it cannot be found in any table. You can't see it physically in any table. For table, we saw table. For column, we saw column. But for measure, it is stored on the system memory, right? So how do you now create a measure? For instance, let me bring in a column. Okay. Okay. And for this, let me create time intelligence. Because I've created a calendar table, all the tables that I've created so far. Let me use the calendar table and also connect it to my facts table using the words, the order date. The order date. Let me see, where's my order date? Order date. I'll just use my order date, drop it on this particular date that we have in here. Okay. Let me zoom my screen so that we all can see very well. I want to create a connection between my calendar, order date, drag it, then drop it on the date column that you have here. So it creates a relationship between them. Yes, then click on save. Make this happen. Okay, interesting. Now, again, this one I can make it my calendar table. I can make it the calendar table. If I go to the table view, my auto calendar table, right? Then can you see mark as date table? If I want to do some time intelligence calculation, I can mark this as my date table. You on it and choose a column. What column are you using? The date column of your needs. You know what I'm using? Then I click on save. Don't worry, you get access to the recording. I just need to cover all that I've set out for. Yes. Well done, everybody. All right. Let me say, okay, here now on the product table itself, right? I want to say let me go to the customer. Let me go to the customer table and I'm picking the customer title. The customer title, these are the titles of all our customers. And I would like to see the sales that's coming from each of the customers. Again, let me zoom in so you see very well. On my fact table now, I can then go to the gross sales. Click on it, the gross sales, right? This is the gross sales that we generated for each of the customer. Fantastic, right? Again, let me say on this again, let me copy this chart and paste it, Control C, Control V. This time around, I want my sales by month and year, gross sales. Remove the title. I go to my calendar table and I pick year. It shows me all the year and I want to see it by months as well. Tick the box for months. So I'm seeing my month arranged this way, right? But I want it to be under each of the year. So I come down here, poke the month name and drop it under the year column on the row, just like you've left in your Excel pivot table. So expand, let me quickly expand. So we see what we have under each of the years. So by default, when you bring in any column into your table, you find that in the main table, this transaction will what one after the other, or the date comes one after the other. But when you bring in any column into your table, Power BI Engine will help you to what? To aggregate all the numbers. So you have to aggregate all the numbers. That is what with this now, it has helped me to sum all the gross sales for the month of August and give me what? Just one number for August. The same thing for what? December. Same thing for July and all the different months that we have here. So what happened here is that what Power BI Engine helps us to do this calculation. What it helps me to sum the gross sales. That's why I give me a sum the gross sales. But the challenge here is that if I want to do some advanced calculation, for example, now for the year of 1996, I want to see what my year-to-date value, so that when you get to August, in the month of this, even this month are not well sorted, okay? But we can make do with this. And in the month of July, when we get to August, it's going to add the data for January and July and August together and give me what? The cumulative. When you get to what? September, it added from the beginning of the year down to the current month till get to the end of the year. Or you want to do another time intelligence, which is what? You want to do a month-on-month analysis. So you can use what? So this particular gross sales will not be able to do that because this calculation was done by Power BI Engine itself. And any calculation that was done by Power BI Engine, it is known as the implicit measure. This is a calculation done by, we call it measure, but it is known as the implicit measure. But the challenge is that you cannot leverage on implicit measure to do your what? To do some advanced calculation. So we need to write our own measure that we can leverage on to do anything ourselves. And such measure is what is referred to as the explicit measure. That is a measure that you explicitly write using your own hand. Using your what? Your hand. So how do we now write a measure? That is when you use the command called what? The new measure. The new measure. So everyone, let's click on new measure. New measure. So this time around, we want to write a measure that will do the same thing as what our gross sales is doing. That is, it's going to help us to add all the gross sales together, right? Add all the gross sales together. So this measure now, let me call it, okay, gross revenue, because we can have two gross sales. Gross revenue equals to, who can tell me what function can I use to add all the values that we have? Okay, let me go to the transaction table again, fact table. Okay, on the fact table, we can see our gross sales column. If I scroll to the extreme right, you can see the gross sales column one after the other. So which function can I use to add all these values together? What function can I use? Can someone type in the chat? To add all these values together? Sum. Thank you. Fantastic. Sum. Then I say what? New measure. New measure. And I call this one my gross revenue. Right? Then I'm going to say sum. Use the sum function. And sum function needs a column. What column do I want to use? I want to use the gross sales column. The gross sales column. You see? So sum all the values that you have on the gross sales column. Then I close the bracket and I hit enter. Hit enter. Then it helps me to what? To sum all the values together. All the values from the what? From the gross sales. Now you can see my gross revenue measure has been created. However, I cannot see this measure in any table. You can see it's currently residing on fact table, but you cannot see it physically. The output of that measure cannot be seen physically on any table. Where do you see it? It is only when you call on it in your visual. So for me to see the output of this, then I need to go back to my report view. And under my report view, I can what now bring my, or this one now, I can bring the gross sales. Gross sales. Can you see now? It gives me what? The gross sales, the gross revenue, which is also doing the same thing as what gross sales is doing. Right? Again, if I bring it again on the what? On the yearly one, I can really tick the box for gross revenue. It does the same thing as what my gross sales is doing. And the difference here is that what? The sum of the gross sales is an implicit measure which was done by Power BI engine itself, while the gross revenue that used in any of them is what? Is an explicit measure which was done by you yourself. Oh, 502 already. Let me clear up. Now, another thing is, let's even say, okay, for each month or so, you want to know how many transactions are taking place. How many transactions have you what? Have you calculated? Have you how many transactions? The number of transactions that took place in each month. What function are you going to use to what? To know the number of transactions now? Tell me. Let me hear from us. What function do you think you can use? Thank you. The count, exactly. The count function. Yes. So we can just say what? New measure. Let me write this. New measure. New measure. I'll say transaction. Right? The transaction. So I want to know the number of transactions that's taking place. So instead of using count, yes, count works, but then in order for you to avoid some error that can arise with count, because with count, if there's any cell that doesn't have any value in it, count will not count it. We just know that for every row on our table represent a transaction. I'll just say what? Count rows. Count rows. Can you see now? I use the count rows column. So it's going to count the number of rows that we have on the table. So which table are you referring to? The fact what? The fact table. Count the number of rows that you have on the fact table. Then that will give you what? The number of transactions that has taken place. So where is it? Let me zoom in. It's what? Okay, transaction. And one thing with measure is that measure can stay anywhere because it can reside in any table. Can you see now? So for different months, now these are the number of transactions that took place. Same thing for what? The title, the business title. If I take the box for transaction, then you see what? How you can leverage on transaction to what? To count the number of transactions that took place using the what different title or the month or anything. So with your that, it filter that helps us to what to filter our report based on anything you bring into your visual, right? So lastly is what we say we can use DAX to do what? To implement a row level security. To implement the row level security. Let me just show us what that means. So it simply means what? With row level security, you can monitor who get access to what on your reports. So if I want to implement the row level security, again, I'll go to my what? My modeling tab. And under the modeling tab, I'll go to what we call the what? The manage roles. Manage roles. And for my manage roles, now I want to create different roles. Different roles for my suppliers, actually. Roles for suppliers. So I click on new role, right? Already it's saying on title, I can give a name to my role. Was supplier 10. Supplier 10. Then I want to what? Say, come to the facts table. You can see these are all the tables that I have on my what? On my Power BI that I currently have in there. I go to the fact table, then say new. So I want to say what? Here now I'm going to say, okay, go to the what? Use the what do you call it? The supplier ID now. Where's my supplier ID? Okay, filter this now. Filter this table down to what? Using that is equals to supplier 10. The value is 10. Then you say save. Now you see what I'm trying to do. I say, okay, add new. I can add another one again for supplier. Let's say this is for supplier 5, right? Here again, filter this now to where we have only what? Supplier ID. Okay, this is supplier ID. It should be equal. We have different conditions that you can use, greater than or equals to, then 5. Then you say what? Save. Save and close. Close. So this is going to help us to write a DAX. I can switch to see what DAX. Cancel. Right. Let me quickly close this. Oh, my Power BI. Okay, don't worry. Report the issue. Yes. Don't worry. I'm coming. Okay. Close this. Close this. I'm done. Thank you. I'm done. Quickly close this. Mind this. All right. So what I want to do is here now. I can then say. Let me see. It's not closing. What's the issue now? All right. What do I do on this? Okay, let me save my work. I need to close this and open it again. But then what I want to show you is now that we have what create different roles, right? Now that we have created different roles, then we can now what? We can now switch our view. So if we are deploying this report now to supplier 5, currently what we are seeing is what? For every suppliers, right? So once you deploy this, let me stop sharing and share again. So, all right. So for you to, let me share my screen. Please confirm that you can see once you can see my screen. I don't know what is wrong with this.
Yes, I can see your screen, Mr. Sadiq. Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much
you.
for the
Right.
for this section. Please, I think you need to start rounding up, sir. I mean,
Yes,
how
that's
many minutes should we
exactly.
give him?
I'm done.
Please,
I'm done.
guys,
I'm
type
done
it in the
already. I'm
chat.
done already. So for you to review your screen, just click on when you click on this what view as. When you click on view as, you see the different levels that we've created. And when you click on anyone, then it's going to filter the report down to what such supplier. That means what when your report gets to the supplier, that is what that supplier is going to be seeing, instead of seeing the holistic report of all suppliers. No, when you reply the report, the supplier will only be seeing the report that belongs to him or her alone, because we have created different roles for the different suppliers. So that's how we use DAX to implement role level security in Power BI. So these and many more are what we can do with Power BI, everyone. So now I can take your question. Thank you for listening, everyone. So if you have any question now, you can ask your question.
If you have any question, just raise up your hands and I will. Okay, Adetono. Oh.
So please let's try and complete the dates table. We do day, month, week number, and so on. Let's see what you have in there. Okay, I think I have some answer.
Adetono, you can unmute your mic. Hi, Adetono.
I can pick the next person then, if you can.
Okay, let's have Aisha. No,
Right, Aisha. So Aisha can.
Abdul Basit. Abdul Basit,
Okay,
you
hello,
can
good
unmute your mic.
afternoon.
All right, good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
thank you so
afternoon.
much for this. Please, my question is that this part of role level security, can you please expatiate more on it? I still don't understand how Power BI recognize the particular user that is filling the report and how it changes the value to the value specific to that user.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'm just okay. So I've noted your question. I will close my Power BI and open it again. I don't know what's going on with what I have in here. So then I will show you and demonstrate how you can see it, how you can implement role level security. Okay. So, all right. The next question. Somebody asked in the chat what if there's no date column? What if there's no date column in your in your table? How do you do this? Yes, you can use using the date, the calendar function. So you can then specify what your start date and what your end date should be. Yep. Go ahead. Next question. I'm trying to bring up my Bible again.
Any other question?
Yeah, hello. Please, I have another question as well.
All right, please go ahead. Question.
So, after you are done designing your dashboard in Power BI, because the previous class we were taught about how to export to the dashboard, but what is the final deliverable for the client? Are you going to export the dashboard and give it to the client, or what are you going to present to the client as the final deliverable?
Okay, so Power BI, you can only, so there are two versions of Power BI. We have the online version and the desktop version. So what we are currently working on is the desktop version. So when you are done with your report, you can publish online, and just the link to the reports is what you give to the client. So you can publish and give them the link to the report. So once they have the link to the report, they can view the report any day, anytime, and using any device. And another thing is that once you make any changes to your report, there's no need for you to give them a new link. Once you republish online, then they will automatically have the updated reports. So that is it. That's how it works.
All right, next
Yeah, thank
person
you so
is
much.
Ifeanyi. Ifeanyi, you can go on, please. Hi, Ifeanyi, are you there? David, please unmute your mic.
I'm trying to unmute my mic.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay,
David,
please go ahead.
we can't hear you again.
Trying to bring up my.
Can you hear me?
Uh,
Yes, with you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes, we
define. I
can.
can hear you.
Okay. Concerning the calendar function, he was saying we can input our starting date and finishing date. So I want to know
Yes.
if the starting and finishing is it from our own gaze, or I don't know, like how can we bring it up, or we just choose any date of our choice? I don't know how we
Okay,
can come
so
about that
depending
function.
actually depending on what you are working on actually, it actually depends on what you are working on. So if what you are working on depends, so it is the date that you want to use. You will want to determine what date you want to input if you are using just the calendar function. So it depends on what you are working on. So you have the right to determine what date you want to use. So it actually follows, it doesn't follow any rule or so. So it solely depends on you and the kind of analysis that you are doing. I think my power BI is off. So let me share myself.
There's a question in the chat, Mr. Sadiq. Someone is
Okay.
asking the sites on YouTube that they can easily go and learn more about DAX.
Okay. All right. So yes, I think for if you can go to Analytics Extra. Analytics Extra has a lot that you can use. So which was the one is what's it called? YouTube, this thing you have different this in there. You have I've dropped the link to the YouTube in the chat, so you can go there. You have a lot of DAX measure that you can like. And not just go to YouTube generally. Just type DAX. You see different interesting channel that you can actually use to learn about DAX. And for the person that asked about the real level security, now I think my system is up now. So remember, I implemented, let me just do this in 30 seconds. I implemented the what? I created different roles for different suppliers now. So when you get to these suppliers, they should be able to what? To be seeing the report that belongs to them alone. So now if I go to view as now, so already this report is for the whole of the organization. This is what we are seeing across the organization. So now when it gets to supplier 5, right? So I want to view this report. What will the supplier 5 be seeing? If I click on supplier 5, tick the box for 5, and click on what? Okay, let me go back again and say view as. I'm saying view as. I want to view this report now as my supplier 5. Click the box for supplier 5, then you do okay. It filters the whole report down to supplier 5 alone. So this is now based on what the transaction that happens on what? On supplier 5's product. Like I said, it's a filter down the report down to the numbers as reduced. So this is basically based on what the supplier 5 is currently is what based on data for supplier 5. If I again go back and say view as supplier 10, untick the box for supplier 5, then click on OK. Then this is what the supplier 10 is going to be. So what role explicit security is going to help us with is instead of me creating different reports for different suppliers, because we have a lot of suppliers and they need to be seeing how their product is doing. So instead of me creating different reports for them, I just implement role level. One report is fine. I'll just implement role level security. So when you get to each of them, then I put them on each group. Then when you get to each of them, they will be seeing what the report will automatically be filtered down to their own data alone. And the super admin, whoever needs to see the complete reports now, what can then what will be seeing all the reports, all the numbers as of today. When you get to different users, different suppliers, or it might be different managers and so on, so you can use what O level security to restrict what they see. Like I said in earlier on, is that using different locations. So this report, you create report for the business as a whole. When you are now publishing to when you are giving them when you set up a what different row level security and it gets to different managers, by default the report will be filtered down to their location alone, and they will not be able to see what is happening in Lagos, what is happening in other locations. So that is what row level security does. Thank you for
Uh,
that.
all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sadiq. Thank you for the insightful section. I've really learned a lot myself. Thank you very much. Please, I think we need to give Mr. Sadiq a round of applause, and
Thank
I
you.
would
Thank you for
appreciate if we, as usual, we should go online on LinkedIn, post what you've learned, and tag Mr. Sadiq, tag Adewale. You can tag myself too. His LinkedIn link will be dropped on the group later. So thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your time. Thank you
Welcome.
very much for the class. Thank you. And the class is hereby coming to an end now. I wish you all a good night's rest. Bye.
All right, so bye everyone. Before you go, there's a link that my boss has dropped in the chat for you. So it contains for anything you want to learn on DAX, you can see it there. So thank you very much everyone for having me, and do have a lovely weekend. Bye for now, everyone.
Thank you, sir.